Hello, 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 everyone. Come on into the webinar. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. My name is Linda Peavy, and I am the owner of LaPav Consulting, LLC, and I'm going to be your hostess for today, where we are going to be talking about how to get the grant funding, free money for your Black-owned organization or your Black-led nonprofit. And please say hello to me as you come into the chat. I am in Ohio, like Northeast Ohio, not too far from Cleveland. So, hey, David, is it wonderful, David? Say hello to me as you come into the chat and give your city and your state a shout out. Okay, so I'm in Ohio. Give your city and your state a shout out. Hey, Mark, the ATL is in the house with, is it Shawishi? Oh, I probably just completely butchered that name. Hey, Nidra in Mississippi. Hey, Tahika. All these beautiful names from New York City. And Smith is representing from Tampa. Hey, Sacramento. Hey, Rhonda. Coral Springs, Florida. That just sounds beautiful. LaShawn and Jasmine is with us from City of Angels, Los Angeles. We've got Deborah from Zion, Illinois. Oh, and the ATL is representing with Jeanette. Arkansas is in the house. Hey, Arkansas, Jeanette. And we've got Diamond from Houston. Houston is being represented. And we've got Misty from the ATL. And Bonita from North Carolina. And Gary is coming in from Oakland, California. So California is representing today. And Harold from, wow, Diamond Bar. I don't think I've ever heard of Diamond Bar, California. Wow. Hey, April. Oh, the ATL is up in the house with April. And Texas. Crystal is coming in from Austin. And hey, India from Virginia Beach. So again, welcome everybody. My name is Linda Peavy, and I am the owner of LaPav Consulting, LLC. And I'm going to be your hostess for this evening, where we are going to talk about how to get grant money for your Black-owned business or your Black-led nonprofit. Now, those of you who know me know that this is a no fluff zone, that I am going to give you information that you can use. Oh, and I just spotted a Clevelander in the house. Hey, Bessie, coming in from my city. What we're going to do very shortly, I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. And the first thing you're going to see is my brief 30-second TV commercial. And it will just give you some more information about me and my background, why I'm here, what I do, and how I am going to be able to help you. And so after that, we're going to do some housekeeping. And then we are off to the races, because I have so much information to give to you that we are going to get started right now. And my assistant here is Anita, and she's going to be helping me. And so we are going to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And as I always say, come through, technology, come through. All right, so hopefully this is going to work just fine. And it is. And then afterwards, we are going to get started. All right.
Hi, I'm Linda Peavy, owner of LaPav Consulting. My passion is to place your organization on the path to excellence. Are you struggling to communicate your message, reach target audiences, or secure funding? From marketing communications to grant writing, we achieve your goals. We've worked with high-profile clients and have secured $17 million in funding for charter schools and nonprofits. Call today to discuss what your success looks like and how LaPav Consulting can help.
All right, so I want to make sure everybody's in the right place. This is grant writing for Black-owned businesses and Black-led nonprofits. This is my 7 o'clock session. I had a session a little bit earlier today at noon that was fantastic, and I know this one will be as well. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to go fast, right, because I have a lot of information I want you to have. And so just know that everything is being recorded. And yes, you will get a free replay, okay? So you are going to get a free replay of the webinar, all right? So as we move through, I want you to ask questions, because whatever you do, don't go anywhere, stay until the end, because I do an in-depth Q&A right? And so I'm going to be answering your questions, and people who know me, they know I answer all of the questions. So drop those questions into either the Q&A or the chat as we move along. Now, let's get started. And then also at the end, I have literally a list of grants that you can apply for as Black organizations. And I have a bonus, so don't go anywhere. All right, so we're off to the races. And yes, they call me the grants queen because I have secured over $17 million in funding and business development for my clients. And you know, there's a difference between someone who writes grants and a professional grant writer. And so I am a professional grant writer. And this is the 15th year of me owning my company, LaPav Consulting. And almost all of those 15 years, I have spent writing grants. I've been hired to literally create and write that request for proposal that you complete. I have been hired to score applications. I review grants. I also have organizations to build partnerships. And yes, I do provide grant writing workshops all across the country for a number of organizations. And I am a proud alumnus of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. And I am now also a member of Forbes Black, which is a group of Black leaders affiliated with the magazine Forbes. So also, I am the former executive director of a nonprofit. So right now, I want to know who's with me. Are you a for-profit? Are you a nonprofit? Or what I'm finding is that a lot of for-profits are beginning to literally start nonprofit organizations. So maybe you're both. All right, so let me know in the chat. Are you a for-profit? Wow, a lot of both. That is incredible. Nonprofit, for-profit, both. A lot of both. That's excellent. So let me tell you, it doesn't matter whether or not you are a for-profit or a nonprofit, this webinar is for you. And yes, just so that is crystal clear, because sometimes I get this question all throughout the webinar. Yes, as a for-profit, Black-owned small business, there are millions of dollars in grants for you. So yes, you can get grant money as a for-profit. So whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, this webinar is going to help you, okay? A little bit more about my journey to getting to the $17 million. I used to be a publishing executive in Pennsylvania, and I was there for 10 years. I got hurt. I had to come back home to Cleveland, literally came back home in a wheelchair, because I couldn't stand. It took me 2 years to recuperate. And when I was better, I couldn't find a job, even though I had over 20, at that point it was 25 years worth of experience. But it was mainly marketing in the area of publishing. And as you can imagine, Cleveland is not like the publishing mecca of the country. So I started my own company, couldn't get hired, started my own, been 15 years, haven't looked back. However, one of my first contracted positions with my company was to become an executive director of a nonprofit organization. And I got the position, and literally, I don't think it was a week before I was called into the board of directors office, and I was told that I had to write a grant to literally save my job. I had to write a grant that would save the salary of the executive director, right? And I'm thinking, wow, they didn't tell me that when I was interviewing, right? But this is what was expected, right? And by me writing a grant to save my job, that meant I saved the entire organization, right? So that was a lot of pressure, but we can keep it real tonight. Oftentimes we, right, people that look like us are asked to come in and save the day, right? Sometimes we're coming in to save the program or to save the project. And in my case, it was to save my job and to literally save the organization, right? So if you know what I mean, if you've experienced this before, give me a show you right in the chat, right? If you've experienced this where we, people that look like us, right, are called in to save the day. But you know what? Yes, I see. Oh my gosh, I see a lot of show you rights. Okay, I see a lot. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. But guess what? I did it. I learned how to write grants. and I saved my position, and thus I saved the organization. But you know what I found out is that there is a connection between learning how to write grants and getting what? Free money. You're going to hear that word all evening, free, 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 right? Grants, they're free money. And what I'm going to show you tonight is that connection and how you go about writing grants to be able to get free money to grow your organization, right? To maybe hire people, to maybe even get started, okay? So we're going to cover why this class is important, the 3 keys to funding, grant basics, how do you prepare to write, what do you write, how do you write? If we have time, we'll talk a little bit about bid proposals. How do you get noticed in a sea of applications? And then I'm going to show you how to conduct grant research so that you know how to find your perfect funder, right? This is important. And then I'm going to give you a list of available funds right now that you can apply for as a Black organization. And then again, don't go anywhere. I have a bonus for you at the end, and then we're going to do a very in-depth Q&A. All right, we're off to the races. Now, we know that Black nonprofits and Black entrepreneurs, look, we need help with funding, and it shouldn't always have to be about loans, right? We want free money, we want grant money, but you know what? Grant writing is a skill, and it can be very costly. So a grant writer at my level, we charge anywhere between $100 to $200 an hour to write grants. However, you can learn these skills to place your organization in a position to win grants, right? At the end of the day, no one is going to be able to tell your story better than you. And look, everything has changed with grants right now. Literally, I was in a class 3 weeks ago where they were teaching us how to write a grant in an hour using ChatGPT, right? Everything has changed, even if you're not using artificial intelligence. The grant world is completely different because you are not sitting in a corner writing a 200-page dissertation for months. That's not grant writing anymore. And actually, most of the grants for for-profit organizations that I've seen in the last 2 years, 3 or 4 pages, most of them, 3 to 4 pages. So you don't have to worry about spending months. You spend hours, right? Literally last month, Barclays Bank gave away $25,000 grant. They wanted a 500-word essay. So you don't have to hire a professional grant writer. You learn to do the skills yourself, and you learn the process, because the process is what is important. And that is what I'm going to teach you tonight. We're going to learn, what do you write, right? How do you write it? And then this is so important. How do you write so that you are literally attracting a funder that wants to give you money? So many of these foundations, literally, they have to give away so much money every single year. Now, 2 incidents completely changed the landscape of grants. One was COVID-19. So when COVID-19 happened, so many small businesses went under. You probably know someone who lost their business, or maybe they had to lay off workers, right? Or maybe you did. Well, the small business is literally the backbone of the US economy. So foundations started to take notice, and then major corporations started to take notice, and they said, we have to do something about this. So what did they do? They used what was available to them, and that was money, right? And so they started to create pools of grant funding, right, that would be available to small businesses. And in the past, when we thought about a grant, we only thought about nonprofit organizations, but all of a sudden now there's money for you as a for-profit organization because of COVID-19 and because of the generosity of foundations and then major corporations that have foundations as well. And so that's why now there's so much money available to minority organizations, women-owned organizations. Now, you might still see some of those COVID-19 grants floating out there. If you do, you always have to talk about how you were affected by COVID-19 when you are addressing those grants, but we will talk about much more than just the COVID-19 grant funding. Next was the George Floyd incident. So when George Floyd was murdered, once again, foundation leaders and the leaders of major corporations saw what everyone else saw, and they said, we have to do something about racial injustice in this country. And so what did they do? They used what was available to them, pools of cash, pools of money. And so they created grant funding, set-asides, right? That's earmarked for, you might have heard of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. organizations that deal with racial injustice, that deal with even socially conscious causes. So if you are dealing with the homeless or the opioid crisis, right? As a Black-owned organization, that is why there is so much money available to you now. I have been in this business for 15 years, and I can tell you that I have literally never seen the amount of money that is available right now for for-profit organizations, for Black-owned organizations, okay? So you're in a great space now to get the money. Now, we're going on to grant basics. What do you need to know? Grants are not paid back. Now, for the next minute, I'm only talking to nonprofits. Nonprofits, you need to get your 501c3 because foundations require it in order for you to apply for grant funding. What is it? That's your tax exempt charitable organization designation by the Internal Revenue Service. Now, you need to try to avoid fiscal agents if at all possible. A fiscal agent is an organization that already has their 501c3. So if you're looking to get grant money, you're looking to get it without your 501c3, that money goes to them. And then they give the grant money to you, which is exactly why foundations would rather not deal with fiscal agents, because look, if they are providing you money for your program, they want that money to go directly to you and not through a third party. So the good news is, it used to take the IRS literally like 3 to 6 months to process these 501c3 applications. Now it's taking 6 to 8 weeks. So nonprofits, get your 501c3 is going to be a requirement for you to apply to grants. Okay, next, I want you to look at this slide very carefully, excuse me. People thought that there was no money in the pandemic. They thought there was no money, the money was dried up. Let me tell you that during a calamity, giving actually increases. Look at this number. And we're just talking about foundation giving. We're not even talking about the corporate giving. This is just from foundations. Giving increased in 2021 to over $90 billion. $90 billion, that is so much money. Can you imagine what you could do with just a little bit of $90 billion? Like, you don't need it all. We're not trying to be greedy. You could open your for-profit or your nonprofit. You could hire, right, employees. You could finally expand. You could stop bootstrapping. We're not trying to be greedy. We just need a little bit. We just need a little bit of the $90 billion, right? So I want everybody into the chat. I just need a little bit. I just need a little bit into the chat. Look, we are not trying to be greedy, right? We just want a little bit of the $90 billion into the chat, everybody. I just need a little bit. Shawisha says, I just need a teeny tiny bit, right? Just a little, Smith, just a little bit of the $90 billion. I mean, really, Heidi says, I just need 1%. Okay, just 1%. Stephanie, I just need a little bit, right? We're not trying to be greedy. We don't need the whole $90 billion, right? We don't need it all. We just need a little bit of the $90 billion, right? Just imagine what you could do with this funding. And I'm going to show you how to get just a little bit of the $90 billion. But first, we have to prepare to write grants. And this is where too many organizations fail, because you see an application, you download it, you complete it, and you send it off. You have to prepare to write grants. And what I want you to do is just hone up a little bit on those writing skills, because I do not want you to submit applications that are full of what? Grammatical errors. And to avoid doing that, Grammarly is going to be your friend. I love Grammarly. And if you use Grammarly, give yourself a shout out in the chat. It is an editing software too. So whether you're writing an email or a Word document or an Excel document, it will make you a better writer. And now they've incorporated a lot of artificial intelligence into the program. And guess what? It is free. Yes, it is free. So let's see who is using Grammarly. Shakita's using Grammarly. Cindy says, I love Grammarly. I use it daily. Doris is using Grammarly. Waukesha is using Grammarly. It is fantastic. Sharnice says, me. Yep. Yes, says Candace. Absolutely. So those of you who are not in the know, now you know. Download Grammarly. That is your homework. And look, I'm going to be giving you lots of tea all evening. This is my first cup of tea for you. So download Grammarly, and this article here will help make you a better writer. Improve writing skills dramatically by doing these 15 things. I'm a professional editor and a professional writer, and this article has helped me, and I use Grammarly every day. Would not think about writing even an email without it. So yes, download Grammarly. All right. Next, you're preparing to write grants. So you need to get your documentation in order. What does that mean? Your EIN, your employer identification number. If you are a nonprofit, you need your 501c3. Now, this is important for you for-profits. You need your state certification, or in some states it's called, excuse me, a business license, right? It's different for every state. So in the state of Ohio, where I am, in order to be a for-profit, you need a business license. You need that state certification, right? Now, a young lady was on my webinar and she said, Linda, you're absolutely right, because I'm a for-profit. I was applying for a grant and the competition was stiff. She said, I was the only one that got the grant because I was the only one that could produce my state certification, right? So what I want you to do, more homework. Go to your Secretary of State's website. It's different for every state, so there's no link. Go to your Secretary of State's website, right? And look under business license and find out whether you have your business license or whether or not it's even required in your state, right? Because it is different for every single state. Next, you need a list of your board of directors, a list of your staff. You need letters of support because you want to showcase that there are other organizations that support your cause, your service, your product, and this is how you can do that. Who are they being written by? It could be your church, your pastor, your vendor, right? Politicians, the mayor, community leaders. Make sure you give them time to write those letters. Now, next, your audited financial statement is not always required. It depends on the grant, but if it is required, you need to have that audited financial statement completed by your CPA, your certified public accountant. Next, your operating budget. Now, even if you are a startup, you need an operating budget. Why? Because at the end of the day, you must know how much this is going to cost you to start this organization. Doesn't matter if it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, you need to know how much money you need, right? So when you create that operating budget, you have those line items. Let's say you're going to open up a storefront. You might have money for the lease. You might have money for employees, but you may realize, oh my gosh, I didn't think about marketing. I don't have any money for marketing, right? So that's where I'm going to apply for a grant. So that budget will not only let you know how much money you're going to need to operate in a year, which is required, you will need this budget, but it will also show you funding gaps as to places where you might want to ask for grant money. Next, list any other funding sources that you have. Why? Because foundations do not like to be your sole source of funding, right? If I'm a foundation, I don't want to be in a position where I have to give you money in year 2 for you to survive. Grants are not guaranteed. So a foundation would like to know if you're getting funding from any other organization, right? Because it will let them know that, yes, there are other foundations that are supporting you. Now, it could be other grant money, it could be sponsorships, it could also be in-kind donations, right? So just make sure if you're getting funding from other sources, put it in the grant application to show that foundation that, yes, you're getting money from other sources. Next, we're going to just go through the typical components that you find in a grant application really quickly, and then we're going to go through this list one by one, right? We're going to do a deep dive. But this is the list of components: your summary, mission, history, leadership, description of organization, statement of need or your target market, how you describe your organization, your community partnerships, your results, which are your outputs, outcomes, and impact, your staff. Now, this leadership pertains to your board of directors, your budget, and then sustainability. And we are going to start to go through these one by one. Your summary abstract. What do you need to know? Don't be fooled. It is the very first component that you will see in that grant application, but you always write it last. Why? Because you are going to take the most compelling components of that grant application and put it into your summary abstract. So you'll see it first, always write it last. Next, your mission vision. Now, all of you should have a mission statement, right? Yes. But do you have a vision statement? So for those of you who don't, this is more homework. Create your vision statement. What is it? Well, that's what you would like to have happen in the future if you are attaining your mission statement, right? What is the mission? Well, that's what you're doing right now. Those are your aims and your goals. And the mission becomes so important because that is how you find your perfect funder, because you align your mission to the mission of your potential foundation. So if you're focused on K through 12 education, you want to make sure that that foundation and that funder also is focused on K through 12 education in their mission or their vision or their value statements, right? So align those missions. It will help lead you to your funder. Next, history. What do you need to know? Even if you are new, even if you are a startup, you have a history, because you're going to put into this section your impetus for even starting the organization. I use the example of the retired principal of a high school who now is starting a tutoring organization. Well, she started the tutoring organization because when she was a principal in the high school, she saw that the students were failing math and reading on a consistent basis. And she knew when she retired, she wanted to help. So her experiences as that principal led her to starting the tutoring organization. So that becomes a part of the history of the tutoring organization. So just because you have a startup, don't leave that history section blank. Write about why you started the organization and what led to it. What were some of the experiences that led to you starting the organization? Now, the leadership section here, that's just your executive leadership, your CEO, your executive director, your COO, but you always include the board of directors because your board is considered part of your leadership. Next, we're describing your organization. Now, this is where you really have to toot your own horn. And oftentimes, especially we don't like to brag. We don't like to talk about our organization, but this is where you have to think about the word impact. How is your organization impacting those for whom you serve? And you use numbers, right? So if you are in a ministry where you are feeding the homeless, you want to know how many pounds of food that you provide. Or if you are placing the homeless in shelters, how many people have you helped? Maybe you have a service organization, you are a coach, and you coach those in the area of career development. How many people have you led to their futures, right? So really use numbers, use stats. How many years have you been in business? How many people are you helping? Really in this section, you want to showcase how you are impacting those for whom you serve. All right, next is the statement of need. What is the problem? And this is where a lot of organizations fail, especially for profits, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter your product or your project or your service. You have to write this grant application as if you are addressing an issue, right? And you might say, well, like, how is that possible? It doesn't matter what your product is. I always like to use the bakery, right? There's a bakery that wants to locate in a downtown community. You might be thinking, well, what problem is she addressing? It's like cakes and cupcakes and cookies. Well, maybe it's a vegan bakery. Maybe she is literally addressing the fact that vegans don't always have great places, right, to have pastries. Or maybe she's wanting to locate in a downtown community where there's been many other failed businesses and she wants to contribute to the economic development of that neighborhood. Or maybe she's addressing the issue of the local businesses that will be surrounding her store. They haven't had a great bakery in years, right? To maybe serve their clients and impress their clients or just have a great catering option. It doesn't matter your project or your program or your service. You have to write as if you are addressing some issue, right? I have really an amazing amount of women who are in the trucking industry that come on my webinars. And you might think, okay, well, what problem is she resolving? Well, one, she's in a male-dominated field, right? Two, she's providing goods from one state to the next or one part of the country to the next. That is resolving a huge issue, right? So again, always think about what you're doing as resolving an issue, because whatever that issue is that you are resolving is going to connect you to your perfect funder, right? Why? Because that funder also wants to fund organizations that share that area of interest, right? Could be the homeless, right? Could be the very fact that maybe you're a Black-owned organization and their funds are earmarked for Black-owned organizations, right? How do you find out information about the funder and the foundation? At the end of the day, 90% of foundations don't even have a website. I'll say that again, 90% of foundations don't have a website. So how do you find out the information? Well, here's another cup of tea for you. The 990 form. Don't sleep on the 990 form. The 990 is the tax document that foundations have to submit to the Internal Revenue Service. They are a gold mine of information, right? They're going to tell you the senior leadership in the foundation. They're going to tell you the board of directors, right? These are people you can contact. But if you scroll to the end of that 990, there's going to be a document with a list of organizations where they have funded, right? And so you want to look in that document to see if there are similar organizations as yours. And if there are, you might know, okay, that might be my funder. So if you have an equestrian program, right, where you're using horses to help heal veterans, you might be looking for an animal related program, right, that has been funded. So look on that 990 form to see if there are other organizations similar to yours and might lead you to your funder. So whatever you do, don't sleep on the 990. Now, how do you get the 990? Well, you might very well pay for a subscription to websites to have access to 990s, right? Or here's that word again, free, free, free. You could always go to this website, projects.propublica, and it will give you, so it's projects.propublica.org/nonprofits. The link has been dropped into the chat. It's going to literally give you the 990s that you can download, look through, review of any organization that has filed a 990 form, free of charge. Okay, next, target population. Who are you helping? What you need to know is that you can't help everybody. You cannot help everybody. This is a mistake that too many organizations make. They spread themselves too thin. You have to target. Have you heard the term? There's riches in niches. Niche down, right? You can't help everybody. So maybe your target population is based on gender and your program is for women, or maybe it's ethnicity and you serve African Americans. Maybe it's for those who live below the federal poverty line and it's income-based. Maybe you're opening up a daycare center. So you're looking for families with children under the age of 5, right? You can't help everybody. You have to think about this term, best. Who is best served by my program, project, services, right? Now, anytime you want regional information, demographic information, the census, don't sleep on the census. The census.gov/quick facts will give you incredible demographics, right? For any part of the United States, any area of the United States. So don't sleep on the census and use this free website whenever you need facts. I use it all the time. At the end of the day, writing a grant is telling a story. It really is telling a story. And you have to really look at what is your message that you are sharing with them? What is the message that you are sharing with these foundations? At the end of the day, look at the target population, who you are targeting. Keep them at the center of your story, right? Why? Because that's where the transformation takes place. Like, think about that homeless person that you may be able to place in a shelter. Once they're there, they could maybe get a job or go back to school, right? The transformation will occur within those for whom you are helping, right? But whatever you do, as you are writing your grant narrative, you're telling a story, right? But you're also addressing how you are resolving an issue or a problem. Now, for those of you who have written grants, and I want you to give me a yes in the chat if you have written grants. Yes, Chantel, there's riches and niches. Oh, well, Keisha, you're opening up a child care center. Oh my gosh, is there funding for you? Okay, into the chat. Yes, yes. We have a few yeses. Is that it? There's only two. Okay, we have a few more yeses. So ask yourself, did you really tell your story the best way? Because it's all about sharing how you have changed lives, how you have provided outcomes, right? You have to appeal to emotions. You have to use real examples, testimonials, case studies. And guess what? It's simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. Literally, you can ask your client to use their cell phone. And everybody know I'm an Android girl. But if you have that little iPhone, then I guess you can use it as well. So you can have them use that cell phone, literally 30 seconds, talk about how that was the best cupcake they've ever tasted in their life, or how you have provided them with an incredible amount of service, right? Have them film a 30-second testimonial, put that video on the home page of what? Your website. Yes, I have been doing this for 15 years. I know that foundations will go first and foremost to your website. So yes, you need a website. And guess what? It doesn't have to be expensive. I get crazy when I hear about some of the fees that these companies try to charge, small businesses and small nonprofits. This does not have to be expensive, but yes, you need a website. It's fine to have a social media footprint. It's fine to have your IG page and your Facebook page, but you need a website to be able to show who you serve, your impact, your content, your information about your team, right? And that's where they're going to go. Now, I am blessed with an incredible website designer. She's a designer and a developer. It's really rare to find a person that's both, because those are different skills. And she's been doing it for over 25 years, and she's affordable, right? I would be happy to refer you to her, right? So that you can get a website done for very inexpensive, but it will be fantastic. So if you want that referral, I am happy to do that. Put your email into the Q&A just for privacy. Put the email into the Q&A. I don't want you to put into the chat because you might want to keep your emails private. If you put into the chat, don't worry, we'll get it out of the chat. We'll get it. But try to put into the Q&A if you can, if you want that referral, because I want you to have this footprint so that when foundations look you up and check you out, you have a great website. Okay. And again, this does not have to be expensive at all, but all of you, I want you to have that video. However, if you're in an industry, right, where you literally cannot have a video of your client, let's say you work in the domestic violence area, you may have a nonprofit, so it just wouldn't make sense for you to have your clients talking on a video. Have them write out the testimonial, right? And you can use an alternative name, or you can say client one, client two, you name it, but just have them write out the testimonial and put that on your homepage. So whether it's written or preferably a video, you need to have that presence, right? Because that is where foundations are going to go. Believe me, I've dealt with this for a long time. They go to your website, right? They go to your website. All right, so you have a decision to make. Are you going to be asking for operating or program project money? What is the difference? If you ask for operating dollars, you get to decide where the money goes. Could be towards IT, marketing, your lease, you name it. Or maybe you just need money for a particular program. For example, the bakery, she wants to provide a home delivery service. So she needs money for that specific project, right? Now, what you need to know, and this is crucial, all of you must be applying to multiple foundations, right? Don't just apply to one foundation and then that's it. Grants are not guaranteed. You must apply to multiple foundations. Yes, for the same exact area of need, right? Let's say you need $10,000 to hire a contracted employee, like a 1099 worker. You should be applying for $10,000 from Foundation A and $10,000 from Foundation B. Yes, absolutely. Now, what happens if you get both? You end up with $20,000, twice what you asked for. What do? What you're not going to do is give money back. Like, we don't give grant money back. No. What you can do, maybe you can increase the hours of the 1099 worker, or maybe hire two 1099 workers. You still have to use the money towards a 1099 worker, but again, you increase the hours, or maybe you hire an extra person. So all of you, absolutely, you must apply to multiple foundations for the same exact need. You should be doing this, okay? Next, you are describing your project or your service. How has it been successful? Again, toot your own horn, use impact, right? How have you impacted your clients? Use those numbers, right? How many years have you been in business? How many people do you see on a regular basis, right? You really have to think about using those numbers, because this is what is going to separate your application from everyone else's, right? Because you're going to focus on your impact using data. And yes, you always address the need and you detail those activities. And if it's an issue that you are addressing for the first time, right, you need to talk about why you think it will be successful, right? You need to do some research about that particular issue. Next, community partnerships. This section of the grant is becoming more significant, right? Because at the end of the day, foundations do not want to just fund one organization. They want you to be able to collaborate with other organizations. And it doesn't mean an exchange of money necessarily. There's many ways you can partner with other organizations, right? For example, I wrote a music grant years ago for a third grade class because they wanted to teach the third graders the violin. And we were going to partner with the Cleveland Orchestra, clearly like one of the greatest orchestras in the world, right? And they were going to come after school and teach these third graders. It was a Black school. Teach these third graders the violin. Can you imagine what that looks like on a grant application? This small school is working with the renowned Cleveland Orchestra. There are so many ways that you need to partner, because you never know the board of that established organization that you're collaborating with, that you're partnering with. They can provide you with recommendations for other foundations, right? You never know who knows who. So none of you should be doing this alone, right? You can't do this alone. Collaborate, find someone in your community, some organization that you can partner with. Could be the Urban League, HBCUs, 100 Black Men of America, right? The Y, these are all established organizations. That bakery, she's going to partner with an event planner, where in her bakery shop, she's going to have flyers advertising the event planner, and the event planner will utilize the services of the bakery, but also provide flyers, right, for the bakery as well. So there are so many different ways. How often do you utilize the library as a partner, right? Whether or not you can go there and speak about your services or hold services there, right? Or even just leave flyers there. So there's so many ways that you can partner with established organizations in your community. This is a very important part of the grant application, because they're going to ask you, what are your connections to your community? Next, we're talking about results. And I do not want you to be afraid of this F word, right? Forecasting, okay? All you're doing is you are writing down what you think your future results will be. That's all you're doing. Now, some grant applications only ask for one of these, the outputs, the outcomes, or the impact. Some ask for all three. So we will go through all three, okay? Outputs. Those are your immediate results. You give me the grant money, this is what you're going to get. Outcomes, they typically happen maybe 6 months to a year down the road after the outputs, right? But they happen because of the outputs. The impact will happen maybe a year to 2 years down the road, but they happen as a result of the outcomes that happen as a result of the outputs. I'll give you an example to make this easy. There was a daycare center, they wanted $20,000 to open. They found a great location. They said to the foundation, you give us $20,000, that's what we need. We will open and serve 100 families and 250 children, right? Now, because they chose such a great location, they wrote down our outcome, right? 6 months down the road, because we're in a great location, because we serve 100 families and 250 children, we're going to grow our daycare capacity by 40%. We're going to add 24/7 services as a result of the output. And they're going to write, a year and a half down the road, this will be our impact. Based on a survey, 25% of our families will say they experience less stress. Why? Because they can drop their kids off 24/7. Like, wouldn't you experience less stress if you could drop your kids off any time of the day? 65% of children will demonstrate improved behavior because we have this great educational program. And in a year and a half, we expect to expand our daycare center to 2 locations. So you see how they stair-step? Outputs, outcomes, impact. So you may only be asked for one, But if you're asked for all three, you know how to answer. All right, next, you know that you are going to have to write down goals, right? What are your goals with this money? What do you plan on doing? How will this money help your organization? And you will need to use SMART goals. Most of you probably know what SMART goals are. They're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Now, I have a program. I write down as my goal, I want to reduce the poverty rate in Cleveland. Well, that's a huge, massive goal, right? I mean, that is expansive, right? I need to write a SMART goal from that. This is how I do it. This is what I write. I want to reduce the poverty rate by 5% in Cleveland for Hispanic children under the age of 5 within a 5-year time frame. Into the chat, few of you, what did I do there? How did I change the goal into a SMART goal? What did I do? What did I do? I see people just love their galaxy. I have one too. So what did I do there? Yes, Shawisha, yes. Is it Terry K? Oh, I'm just butchering people's names. I'm so sorry. Rhonda, yes. Bill, measurable. I added specific details. Cindy, yes, I made it more attainable. Yes, Diamond, I found a niche within the broad goal. Thank you, Diamond. I found a niche within the broad goal. Perfect. That's exactly what I did. Sharnice kept it real. I broke it down. Yes, I love that, Sharnice. Sharnice just kept it real. I broke it down. Yes, I did. I broke it down. I love that. And you can too. And what did I do? I added data and stats. So that's what you have to do to create that SMART goal. You use data and stats. Next, how do you prove that your program or your service or your project is working? Those are the assessment tools that you're going to use. Because at the end of the day, you have to show that what you're doing is successful. How do you do that? I love surveys, right? I use SurveyMonkey. So if you're using a particular survey that you really like, drop it into the chat. I love SurveyMonkey. I use that a lot. The tutoring organization, the retired principal, she's going to use as her assessment the test results in reading and math of the students before and after they take the tutoring lessons, right? That's how she's going to know whether or not her tutoring organization is successful. So you'll need to determine ways in which you can measure how you are being successful, or reports or follow-up interviews, right? I just happen to really like, oh, Stephanie, perfect, a focus group. I didn't even add that. That's perfect, a focus group. And then Heidi, yes, formal and then informal assessments, absolutely, right? So you have to determine how are you going to measure your success. Next, you are simply going to list out who is leading your program or your project or your service, right? And for those of you, especially those of you who have for-profits, I know it's been a while since you updated that bio or that resume, but you will need to do so because they will ask for it. At the end of the day, it's about accountability. The foundations want to know that, yes, you have the right people in the right place and the right job. Next, your budget. This is how much you're asking for and how you're going to spend it. What do you need to do? You need to itemize your expenses, right? So let's say you're asking for $50,000 to pay for an executive director. You can't just put, I need 50 grand for an ED. No. How long will the $50,000 last? Is it paying their salary for 6 months, for a year? Is it a 1099 contracted executive director, or maybe it's a W-2 employee? In that case, you are going to have to provide for those benefits, right? So the numbers go into the budget line, how you are spending the money. How often are you paying that executive director? What is the rate? How many hours? How many days? How many weeks? That information goes into the budget narrative, right? Now, my best practice is I always connect the money back to the goal of the program. So if I'm asking in the budget narrative for $50,000 for the ED, I'm going to talk about how that executive director is absolutely crucial to the success of the program. Now, I love this, sustainability. I told you earlier, grants are not guaranteed. Just because you get a grant in year 1 does not mean you're going to get the grant in year 2. I want you to think about the high school. The high school got the $20,000 for the tutoring program, right? In year one, they had to literally write down in that application, if they don't get the $20,000 in year two, they have a way to sustain their program, right? So you have to be able to write how you're going to sustain your service beyond the grant period. So when there's no more grant money, you still need to be able to keep that program running or that service running, because again, foundations don't like to be placed in a position to know that if they don't give you money in year two, that program or that service is going away. So I want you to do a really quick activity. Think about that high school, right? They had to write into an application how they were going to come up with $20,000 in year two if they didn't get the grant. What do you think they did? So I want you to drop into the chat. Think about this. This is a high school. Think about what a high school could put into an application as to how they can come up with, yes, Showishi, fundraising, boosters, right? Oh my gosh, alumni, that is perfect, right? Cindy, bake sales, car washes, absolutely. Collaborate with other corporations, certainly, right? What about selling tickets to a musical event that, you know, the students are providing, or maybe selling tickets to a sporting event at the school? Donations, right? They could start donations, Bill. Letitia says selling concert tickets, absolutely. Partnering with other schools. Tahika, I think that's right, Tahika. Perfect. School dances, hadn't even thought about that. That's amazing, right? So you are going to have to be creative and write how you will be able to still come up with this money in year two, even if you don't get the grant funding. At the end of the day, this is truly about you shifting your mindset into a winning position, because people that look just like you and me are getting grant money every single day, right? I don't want you to be scared. I want to take the fear out of grant writing, because as I mentioned before, sometimes these are 2 to 3 page documents, right? And you can do this, but do it in a community of support, okay? That matters, because I want you to position yourself for success, right? I know you want to help clients solve problems, but know that you're going to have to create some relationships to do this. Yes, you are. And if you take nothing else away from this webinar, you have to understand that you need to meet with the funder first. Meet with the funder first. I have been in meetings with foundation leaders where I have heard them say, literally, if you send me a grant application and you haven't called me, haven't contacted me, haven't written me, haven't sent me an email, that might go into the trash. Now, not all foundations think that way or act that way. Some foundations don't even want you to contact them. They will say, fill out the application and send it off, and that's it. But if you have the opportunity, you must meet with the funder first, right? Because in that meeting, you're going to learn more information about that grant than they will ever put on the website. They're going to learn more information about you than you'll ever be able to put on a website, because you are sitting one-to-one. You're building a relationship. It typically is Zoom. It doesn't have to be in person, right? Literally last month, I set up a meeting with a client and a foundation that never even heard of my client before. After a 30-minute session, he walked away with $30,000. Few weeks earlier, set up another meeting with a family foundation. They didn't even have a website, right? 2-hour session, 2-hour meeting. Client walked away with not only $30,000, but the promise that the family foundation was going to give that nonprofit $30,000 additional every single year. You must meet with the funder first. It is absolutely critical. And if they like you, they will literally guide you as to what information you need to put in that application. So whatever you do, meet with the funder first. These are some do's. Next, people. Time management, people. Time management. Grants are deadline driven. If they tell you that the time is 4:59 p.m., that you have to have the grant in, and you submit it at 5 o'clock, you're going to have a bad day, because it's going to be rejected. Please, whatever you do, try not to start the day that the grant is due. Try not to even submit it the day the grant is due. Give yourself at least a day. You never know if there's going to be technical difficulties, right? Next, address every question. Even if it's a question that doesn't pertain to you, don't leave it blank, because if you are submitting a grant application in an online portal and you leave answers blank, it may think that it's an incomplete application and it might reject it. So if there's a question that does not pertain to you, just put NA. And then always have someone else review your grant applications before you submit them. These are some don'ts. Look, I love a good template, but don't use cookie cutter answers based on a template. In other words, don't copy and paste from one application to like 20 different other applications, right? Because questions can be nuanced, right? The question can be asked just a little differently. And whatever you do, don't ask for too much money if you are approaching a funder for the first time. Now, a lot of grants, you know the amount, they're $5,000, $10,000, but community foundations especially do not tell you the amount of the grant. You have to tell them what you need. And I always recommend when you start, be conservative, ask for anywhere between $5,000 to $30,000 the first time. And then whatever you do, don't forget to add it, because we love Grammarly. Now, I told you how important it is to meet with the funder. This is how you do it. You create a letter of introduction. And in that letter, you're going to talk about your organization. You're going to describe your organization, your need, your target population. You're going to align that mission, right? You're not asking for money yet. You're just asking for a meeting. You're going to do your research. So let's say you come up with the right name, right? Do you have the right email address? This is critical, right? I do not want you sending this letter to like info@abcfoundation.org somewhere. It will go into the hemisphere and probably never come back. Okay, you need an email address. And I've been giving you tea all afternoon. Well, this is the teapot. This particular website has completely changed my business. Getemail.io will allow you to get and find the email address of almost anybody in any established organization around the world. I use it constantly. I use it to get emails of people I need to talk to in Italy, Germany, you name it, right? Anywhere in the world. It is incredible. And guess what? It is free for like maybe the first 10 to 15 emails. Then they do charge you about $60 a month, but utilize your free ones, right? It's about 10 to 15. Utilize your free ones, okay? So getemail.io is incredible. Next, this is how you literally will be researching to find your funders. The Foundation Directory Online is the leading source of information on funders. Now, they give you the actual names of the foundations and the organizations. They're about $50 a month, but if you're on a budget, you can go to your local library and they will have access to it for free. Instrumental.com is fantastic, but is extremely pricey at $200 a month. But they do give you the grant information, the grant application, the link, the foundation information, the 990 training, but you don't have to pay $200 a month. There are other resources, right? Grants.gov is your single source for federal grants, right? Lilly Foundation, if you are a faith-based organization or church, yes, there are grants for you. And the Lilly Foundation is the largest funder of religious organizations. And it is, obviously, that's like a free website. Grant Gopher is free if you have a lot of educational funds. I like grantwatch.com because they have so many last-minute grants, and they're about $20 a week. Grantstation.com I love because they have so many for-profit grants, and they really allow you to drill down on those areas of interest and the target population. They do such a good job of really honing in on organizations that fund specifically what you do. And they are $200 a year. However, oftentimes they will have a special where they provide their subscription free to nonprofits. So check them out. Now, urbanawarenessusa.org, you need to know they are Black owned, and they have a lot of information, a lot of grants for Black owned organizations or Black led nonprofits. So, and you can sign up to them for free. They do have some paid services, but definitely sign up to their newsletter, and they have tons of free webinars too. Now, I just want to show you, because this is important. This is how you find grants. This is the homepage of GrantStation. In the middle there, as you can see, you can choose U.S. charitable. Those are your typical foundations, federal, I would go to grants.gov for the federal grants though. State government, Canadian charitable. I always have people on my website from all over the world, right? Because these are global searches, right? So Canada, international charitable, right? So don't think that just because you're in the US that there are not grants available to you if your target population is in another part of the country. There's one particular client of mine. He established here in the US, but he services children in Africa, right? And so you can search for grants, right? Even though your target population is not here in the US. That's why in the middle there, where it says geographic scope, you see global and national and state, right? And then to the right, that's where you really drill down on those areas of interest and your target populations, types of support, right? Your local, it could be local or national, target population, veterans, homeless, K through 12, disabled, areas of interest, religion and ethics, faith-based. I mean, you name it, you can, I love Grant Station because you can really drill down here on your specifics. Anyway, you put all that information into Grant Station, into the portal, and you push a button and up pops a list of grants for you. Now, again, they're about $200 a year, but sometimes the subscription is free for nonprofits. So I told you I would have actual grants for you. Here they are. So the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce and the American Express came up with a We Back Black Business grant. There's also the Department of Transportation grant you might be familiar with. Facebook has a Black Creators Grant. I was the recipient of one of those grants. NASC, National Association for the Self-Employed, MBDA, FedEx, the SBIR grants. Northwestern has a Black Founder Accelerator. Now, some of you might be thinking, look, I'm not big. I just have a small staff, or I don't have any staff at all. Doesn't matter. You can get grants, right? Amarillo, they focus on giving grants to really small, tiny organizations, or yes, all volunteer nonprofits. You don't need a large staff. Look, you don't even need a paid staff, okay? If you have an all volunteer staff, you can get grant funding as long as you are showing that impact. You're showing the fact that the work is being done. So don't think you need to have some great, big, large organization. No, a lot of these grants for small businesses and for smaller nonprofits, they have a ceiling on how much money you can earn in a year. So it's fine that you're small. So Mustard Seed Foundation, all they do is give grants to faith-based organizations. Harlem Capital is a group of Black philanthropists, and they give to Black organizations. The Lilly Foundation 2 years ago set aside $23 million to fund Black churches and HBCUs. GiveButter.com is a group of Black philanthropists, and all they do is give out grant money to Black organizations. Barclays Bank is another grant. Now, maybe you're a startup. You might be thinking, oh, there's no money for me. I'm starting up. No, there's money for you too. Ensile is an organization that gives startup money. And also Sky's the Limit is an organization that provides money for startups. Now, I know I have a lot of Black women on the webinar, so this slide is for you. If you are a small business, you have to sign up to helloalice.com. The next two are what I call the credit card grants. MasterCard and Visa, they both have programs for Black women. Kickstarter, Creative Capital, they really hone in on providing grants to Black populations. Goldman Sachs has a 1 million Black women program, and I'm almost sure you can apply whether you are a for-profit or a nonprofit. Excuse me. Cartier, the jewelry company. While I take a sip, they have a great women's initiative. And then Amber Grants for Women, they give away $10,000 every single month and $25,000 every quarter and $50,000 every year. So whatever you do, sign up for them now. Excuse me, I do want to say Amber Grants for Women, they're probably the only grant provider that I know where there is a charge to apply. And it's only $15. And when you pay the $15, you are entered into all of their different grants. There's like 3 or 4 categories, but it's $15. But they're really the only organization I know that charges. If you have a health and wellness organization, look at the Women's Sports Foundation. Now, really quickly into the chat, I want you to tell me What do you think about when you think about banks and money? Banks and money, into the chat. Banks and money, banks and money, banks and money, banks and scary. Yes, it is scary. Credit, crooks, loans, lenders. I don't want a loan, feels uncomfortable, right? Well, did you know that banks are some of the largest providers of grant money? Grant money, yes, grant money. Now you've been going, excuse me, to the wrong person. You've probably been going to your branch manager. You know what they're going to tell you to try to get a loan, right? Or maybe you've been going to your loan officer. They will probably sell you a bigger loan. No, you need to go to the vice president. Typically their title is like vice president of community reinvestment or vice president of economic development. Make sure it's a bank with a really strong presence in your area. Maybe you see a lot of branches. Maybe you see, excuse me, a lot of commercials, right? You want to make sure that bank has a great foothold in your community. Now, I can tell you, because of prior discrimination lawsuits, these two banks have significant money set aside to help Black organizations, nonprofits and for-profits. That is Wells Fargo and Bank of America. So those are two you absolutely want to make sure that you are connecting to. Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Doesn't matter where you are in the United States. Wells Fargo, Bank of America. But locally, look for regional offices. Again, the vice president of community reinvestment or community affairs or economic development, because yes, banks provide grants. Now, don't go anywhere because we're going to do an in-depth Q&A. I said to you that I have been writing grants for 15 years and that there is so much money available for you as a Black organization. I want to be able to help you get it. So what did I do? I can only help so many people writing one grant at a time. I want to help as many people as I can. So I created a very easy to follow grant writing course, right? It is so easy to follow. And it literally includes all of my 15 years of writing and researching and winning grants. It is a step-by-step path to funding. It really is. I want you to be impactful. I want you to fulfill your mission without doing what? Bootstrapping, asking people for money, asking your family and friends for money, right? You shouldn't always get loans, right? There's free grant money out here. So yes, think about what you would do if you could win $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 or more to maybe finally open up your organization or grow. This course is going to literally cut your time in researching and finding your funder and writing that grant in half, right? I hear all the time, is there a grant for literally fill in the blanks? Yes, there's probably a grant for you. You have to find out who's funding it. And this course will help you do it better and faster than if you're doing it by yourself, because I'm going to show you what I learned, right? And I'm going to give you the best grant research techniques. And I'm going to show you how you find funders who literally want to give you money and how do you approach these funders. And you know, I'm going to teach you how to write every single part of the grant narrative, and the narratives that are included, the examples, right, that I include, they come from winning grants and I wrote them all, right? So you are literally looking at winning grant applications, because I want you to be able to write grants without necessarily paying a grant writer, because as I said before, no one is going to tell your story better than you. So yes, a little bit of effort is going to create to a lot of equity. What do you get? 12 modules, 35 lessons. Now, I know everybody learns differently, so I start every lesson off with a video. That's important. So I have the video and then I go into the lesson and I give you tasks. I ask you to write, right? I'm giving you questions about your organization, and it's fun because you're literally writing about your organization, right? And of course I give you planners so that you can stay on track. I give you workbooks. I give you these really silly, fun quizzes, right? To make it fun, because everything available to you is at your disposal. It's all digital, it's all online, and you have the ability to download everything, because maybe you're not always at your computer. So you can download everything, all of the lessons, everything. And as I mentioned, yes, I give you real grant examples, and I'm doing something that nobody else is doing. I literally give you a list of 450 funders. I'm going to say that again. You get a list of over 450 organizations that are providing grant funds. And I just uploaded a few weeks ago a new list of organizations that provide grants to entrepreneurs. And unlike a lot of people who create these courses, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to serve you. I have a private Facebook group where you come in, and if anybody on this webinar is in that Facebook group, give yourself a shout out, because that Facebook group is lit. I'm telling you, it is incredible. I am always dropping information about new grants in the Facebook group. Let's say you're writing a grant and you want somebody to just review a portion of it. Come into the Facebook group and ask people, could you review it for me? I have professional grant writers who take the course. They're always in the Facebook group, right? That's where you get the help you need, because I am not here to abandon you. I'm here to help you, because I need you to get some of this grant money, right? And on top of all this, I actually give you an hour of group coaching every single month. Every single month is free with the course. And I get you together in that hour. Let me tell you, I get your organization together, and I make sure that you are in the best place to move forward to find and write these grants. Now, what is the cost? This is just what it's worth, okay? 12 modules, 35 lessons. I've had the course audited 3 times now, and this is the value. Just the modules and the lessons are worth $3,549. The introductory videos are worth $599. The 400 funders, now 450 funders, that list is worth $499. And you know how important it is to have those workbooks and those planners. You know, you need to track, right? When you are writing a grant, I give you planners and grant trackers. They're worth $350, but I'm not charging you what it's worth. The value is $4,997. So the regular price is $997. But guess what? We're in June. Juneteenth is coming up. It's half price. It's $497. But guess what? I'm not even asking you to pay that, because you came onto this webinar, which says to me that you need help, right? It says to me you need help because you could have been anywhere else, right? I know there's a game coming on tonight, NBA game coming on tonight. You chose to be here, right? Because you need help. So I'm giving it to you for an additional 50% off, $247, one and done. People think this is a monthly fee. My coaches, oh my gosh, they think I'm crazy. $247, one and done. It's not a monthly fee. This is what you pay, literally. But yes, it's only for 3 days, because I can't continue to charge you that, because people pay the $497. But for the next 3 days, you only pay $247. You get an additional 50% off. And I do something that I rarely do. Let's say you don't even have the $247. I give you a chance to pay over the course of 2 months, $137.50 a month, right? That equals $275. So you're paying a little bit more, but you're also paying over 2 months, right? Now, I don't drip my course. So even if you take the 2-month payment deal, you're getting the whole course. You're getting everything as soon as you pay, everything, the entire course. Now, to get the $247 deal, you have to use this code, right? Now, if you want to take the 2-month deal, you don't even need to use a code. But if you are making the $247 payment, you have to put this code in. And while the code expires, no, my course never expires. It is lifetime access, because I know life happens. And you can buy this course and say you're going to start next week. And guess what? Life happens. I'm not going to put you under that amount of pressure. Lifetime access, right? Because at the end of those 12 modules, when you've answered those questions, you have a completed grant proposal. You're ready to go out and get grant money, and actually give you 450 funders and organizations. So you have what you need. You are ready to go. This is everything you get. And yes, I'm doing it for the culture. This is a crazy low price. I know it is, $247, one and done. I didn't even talk about the letter of inquiry. There's so much in the course that I didn't even talk about. But yes, you do only have 3 days to get it, because as I said, people pay $497 for the course every day. So I can't keep it at $247. But yes, that is the price. And if you buy it, you go to this site here, you hit the click, whether you click the little link that's put into the chat, everything is into the chat, the link is in the chat. you will see this page, $497. You hit purchase, you'll come to another page where you input the code and it will immediately take off $250 so that you'll only be paying $247. Now, if you want to make the 2 payments, you're welcome to do that. You see this little black drop down arrow, excuse me, you hit that arrow and you'll see the 2 payments time $137.50. So, but if you want to make the 1 payment, you come to this page, you see to the left, it says have a coupon. You input the coupon code that I gave you and it will immediately take the $250 off. You'll be paying $247, one and done. Now you see this little block here that says ask the expert. This is the only time that I discount my one-to-one private sessions because they're normally $495 an hour because we do a deep dive into your organization. But if you buy this hour with the course, it's only $195. It's totally up to you. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. But a lot of organizations do because they want to sit down with me and have me really go through their organization one-on-one private session, right? $195 for the hour. And yes, people are asking, yes, I do provide monthly coaching as well. You can send me an email if you're interested in that. Why is this important for you to move now? Because it's June 1st, right? There are foundations like Walmart and Verizon. They have money starting January 1st. And when that money is gone, it is gone. So whatever you do, please don't stay in the same space that you're in now. Move yourself forward. We're at June 1st. Now, most foundations, they give you deadlines, which is fine. They have money available all throughout the year, but there are some where when the money has been exhausted, it's been exhausted. So whatever you do, don't wait. Like somehow move your organization forward and place your organization in a place to get this grant funding. We know that the program works. I just want to read what Christina said. Christina looks just like you and me, all right? And she took the course and she won grants. She said, may I share that I am so grateful for Linda. I would not have had the confidence to follow through on applying for grants if it wasn't for her grant writing course. The depth of information provided is unmatched from my experience. I won my very first grant to grow my business, and I am so grateful, right? Christina looks like you and me, right? She won a $10,000 grant that I dropped into the Facebook group. I'm always dropping grants into the Facebook group. And she won a year's mentorship, right? So this is real. This is not people that's plucked, out of the atmosphere from another planet somewhere. These are real Black people getting real grant money. Quintina looks like you and me. March 1st, she got her first grant award. FAIR has written 5 grants for her mom's church. It's just amazing. As I said, if you're a faith-based organization, you can get grant money too. Reverend Chris is up to $35,000, right? So at the end of the day, place yourself in a position to get this grant money. And yes, it's only $247 one time. People literally think it's per month. It is not. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we are going to do an in-depth Q&A. But the first thing I want everybody to do before you do anything else, because sometimes you have to speak these things into the universe, I want you to put into the chat, I'm ready to get grant money. I'm ready to get grant money. Everybody, I'm ready to get grant money. I'm ready to get grant money. And so the code should definitely be working. It's the June 1P. All right. And I'm going to double check and make absolutely sure that everything is working. But yes, that code should absolutely be working. But I'm going to double check right now to make sure that you have everything you need. But that's what I'm talking about. I am ready to get grant money. I am ready to get grant money, right? Because that's what you have to do. You literally sometimes have to speak these things into the universe. And that's what I'm talking about, right? So the code, let me make sure this is in here. The code is June 1, and that's P like Paul. Now, make absolutely sure you're using all lowercase, right? June 1, that is a 1, right? Just like June 1st, June 1, small p, okay? June 1, small p. I know that may look like an L or something, but that's actually June 1 and small p. So I want to make sure that is working for everyone. All right. I want to make sure that is working, right? So I'm going to put it in here also. It's June 1 P, right? So that's not an L. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Misty, Sheila, Erna, Asia, Jeanette, I'm ready to get grant money. Bill, Sean, Charles, Harold, I'm ready to get grant money. Deborah, Dawn, Brian, Gina, Erna, Stephanie, I'm ready to get grant money. Tara, Ashley, Benita, Shakita, Mark, India. Letitia is ready to get grant money. And I think that's Diane. I don't have all of the letters, but you're ready to get grant money too. All right. So yes, it is time. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't put it off. All right. Don't put it off. All right. So we are going to start because we have a lot of questions. And as you know, I'm going to get through every one of them, but I'm going to start in the chat. So I'm going to start with the chat, but I know that there are also questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to get to all of them. So let me just start in the Q&A. And people, right now, I want you to give Diamond some love because Diamond said, look, I'm ready to get grant money. I'm not waiting. Diamond has bought the course. Everybody give Diamond some love because she was serious. Okay, she's like, no, I'm not sitting on the sidelines. I need this money. I'm ready to get this money. Give Diamond some love. Yes. And Jasmine was like, I am not going to be left behind. No, I'm not. Give Jasmine some love. Jasmine has bought the course. Yes, I will see you in the Facebook group. I will see you in the course. Actually, in the course, there are discussion starters. So if you have any question, even as you're making your way through the course, you ask a question and guess what? It comes to me and I answer it directly. Like I said, I am here to help you. Okay. Jasmine was like, look, I am on it. I am not waiting. No, it's time to get this grant funding. All right. So let me start with the Q&A and I'm going to the top. Let's see. I know I have all of your email addresses for the website referral. So I do have that, but I'm going to get to the questions now because I want to make sure I get through everyone. First question. Though not to be paid back, are there any common stipulations that funders place on a grant recipient? Excellent question. Excellent question. So as a grant recipient, excuse me, if you are a for-profit, you are likely going to be taxed on the grant money as a for-profit, right? You need to make that determination, but I'm pretty sure most for-profits are have to pay taxes, but it's free money, right? Also, you need to know that whatever money you get, so let's say you got $20,000, track that money, right? So you will have to keep account of where you are spending the money because at the end of the day, you're going to need to provide a grantee report. And so some foundations want a grantee report every 6 months. Some foundations want a grantee report every year. So it just depends, but keep track of the grant money so that you're able to indicate in the report where you spent the money, right? So I always recommend that you trace that money as it comes in. You might want to even put it into a different account, right? Just so that you know you are accountable for every penny and where you spent it, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm a food-based for-profit. So when it comes to letters of support, can they be from a client? Absolutely. How many are usually needed? How many you can get? There's no limit. There is no limit. Are you able to set up a meeting with Cuyahoga Arts Council in Cleveland? So I think you're talking about Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, right? So there's two foundations. One is Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, and the other is the Ohio Arts Council. The Ohio Arts Council is in Columbus, and the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture is in Cleveland. So Yes, absolutely. You should be setting up a meeting with them both. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they want to meet with you. Keep in mind, these foundations are giving you free grant money. They want to know who they're giving the money to. The slides are, so I do not give out slides, right? But you will get the complete replay. You will get the replay. You will get the replay. So don't worry about that. And you know how to do your screenshot, when you get a replay. So yes. All right. So bank grants. Do I need to be a client of theirs? Absolutely not. Also, I have a CC debit or savings account already open. No. You don't need to be a client. No. Right. So you have 3 days. You have 3 days to get the discount, right? You have 3 days to get the discount until Sunday. Once this is bought, will the course be open to me and my 501c3 for a lifetime? Yes. You have a lifetime access to the course. What does the optional funding look like for a for-profit organization? I'm not sure what you mean. If you're talking about where you write in alternative funding. So let's say you apply for a $20,000 grant and you need to write in how you are going to sustain your for-profit in year 2. If you don't get the $20,000 grant, you could, especially for for-profits, is actually easier because you could say, I'm going to invest additional advertising dollars, or I'm going to have more frequent sales so that I get in more revenue, right? Or maybe I'm going to hire a grant writer to provide me with additional grant funding, right? So you really think about ways in which you can increase those sales, right? As a for-profit, if you have some type of a product or service based, or maybe you say, I'm going to create a more stringent marketing campaign where I can bring in additional clients, or maybe I'm going to network greater than I already have so that I can increase my level of visibility so that I can get more clients and therefore bring in more money. Excuse me, I think that's what you were talking about when you said optional funding, alternative funding. I'm into food processing. Is there a grant for such ventures? There's a grant for almost anything. You have to find your funder. Excuse me. So I'm glad you asked that question though, because grants are typically one of two kinds, right? Some grants are based on industry, right? So you may have a manufacturer, let's say, for example, Smuckers. Smuckers, they provide grants, right? So they're going to provide a grant maybe to someone in the food processing industry, right? So it's industry specific. So some grants are industry specific, right? However, so another great example, all of you need to know this. So for those of you who stuck with me, this is important because the deadline is tomorrow. Progressive Insurance is providing a $25,000 grant so that you can get a car. You have to be a Black entrepreneur, right? You have to have a small business, a Black-owned small business, and they are giving you $25,000 to buy a car to use in your business. It has to be a car that you're going to use in your business, right? So that's kind of industry specific, right? Because we know Progressive provides auto insurance, right? But there are other grants where it doesn't matter. There are some grants, the requirement is you are a Black-owned business or you are a woman-owned business, right? So it's not specific. So think beyond the fact that you're processing food. Yes, you want to apply for grants that are in the food processing industry, excuse me, but you also want to apply for grants that they're providing money just because you're a Black-owned organization, right? So think about broadening your search for grants, right? Think about broadening your search for grants. What are your thoughts on using ChatGPT for writing grants? I'm not sure how authentic that will be. So I'm going to be quick because that could be a completely different webinar. So ChatGPT is artificial intelligence, and it is great for researching. That's another tool that you could use. Literally, you feed it your information. So you feed it the information about your nonprofit, and you can ask it, can you find grants that are available for my organization? That's another avenue where you can research, right? You can also have it help you write your grant. Now, artificial intelligence is never going to be a substitute for a grant writer. It just is not, right? Because once you see what they provide you, you know that it's not always in your voice. You have to write your grant in your voice. Use it as a tool, right, to give you information that you can use. So let's say you have to give it prompts, right? So let's say you want to know how best to write down your impact, the impact that you have as an organization, and you feed it information about your organization, what you're doing, your mission, who you serve, and you can ask it, can you provide me ways in which I can provide information about how I impact communities, right? And it will give you information, right? And you read through it, you decide what you're going to use, what you're not going to use, how you're going to tweak it so that it's in your voice, so it can be a great tool, right? But keep in mind, ChatGPT is only using research. It's really not good for research because a lot of the research is wrong, and it will tell you at the bottom, because I have ChatGPT, it will tell you at the bottom, don't use this research because it's not necessarily accurate, right? So you can't use it as a substitute for grant writing. Use it as an accessory to you writing your grant, but not as a complete substitute. But it can help you, absolutely. And it can help you write faster because it will give you the information and then you tweak it and make it a little bit more your own, right? But also for those of you, I know there's an issue with like the bloggers. So if you use ChatGPT to only write for you, no, you don't own that material because it's not coming from you. You didn't write it. So be careful. Be careful. Use it as an accessory, and not something that's going to be in place of grant writing. All right. If there's a for-profit with no board, what do you do when answering questions? So I would always advise as a for-profit for you to have an advisory board, right? But for most of the for-profit grants, they're less concerned about your board. The board questions really pertain to the nonprofits more so than the for-profits. But just because I've been in business for so long, I would always recommend that you at least have an advisory board. But no, that's not going to keep you from getting the grant. All right. So Letitia, I need for you to send me, an email. Just send me an email, which reminds me, I'm going to put these 2 emails for those of you who are still with me. This is very important, right? I am putting my email address. This is my direct email address, and I'm also putting into the chat the hello@grantwritingfornonwriters.com, because your replay is going to come tonight at 11 o'clock, and I don't want it to go to your spam. hello@grantwritingfornonwriters.com. So I want you to put these 2 email addresses. I just dropped them into the chat, into your safe senders list, right? Your safe senders list, because I do not want your replay going into spam. And yes, you will have your replay forever. It's on YouTube, so it won't expire. With the Wells Fargo and Bank of America, whom would I write to for the grant? Again, you have to research it. Do your research and come up with their names. These are ongoing grants, right? So Wells Fargo and Bank of America, they're ongoing grants now. But there's typically regional reps. So you need to research, just use Google, right, to find the Wells Fargo Bank in your area or the Bank of America in your area. And there's usually a regional representative that you will be speaking to. So the payment is due today or over the course of the next 3 days, right? So let's say you want to, okay, so you're asking about the $137.50, right? So no, it's not biweekly. So if you pay today, it's June 1st, you're going to be billed again July 1st. So it's in 1 month. You have a complete month, and it will be billed automatically. And it is very important that that second payment go through. So if you pay now, July 1st, if you pay tomorrow, then the next payment for $130.50 will be due July 2nd. So you have a whole month to pay. Is there such a thing as miscellaneous grants? Are there grants that are more strict? So I think you're talking about discretionary grants. So Great question, right? So there are times when you may be in an emergency situation and you really need money to keep from closing. I always recommend going to community foundations because they have discretionary grant writing ability, right? So instead of going through the typical lengthy process, right, which can sometimes take weeks and weeks and months, oftentimes for many foundations, especially the local community ones, they have what's called discretionary grants, right? And they can get that money to you a lot faster. They're smaller grants, typically they're under $15,000, but they can get that money to you faster than if you're applying for like a $25,000 grant, which has to go through the process of their board members and their committee meetings. A lot of the program managers have that discretionary grant writing ability where they can get you the money faster. So the course provides information as to the language that you need to write the grant. So once you buy the course, you want to come into the Facebook group, right? And if you have, let's say you write a part of it out, right? Let's say you write a part of it out and you want someone to read that over, come into the Facebook group and ask them if they will read that part of the grant to you, right? Or read it for you and make suggestions as to how you want to change it. You may think about having someone, a friend or a colleague, write it out for you, Letitia, so that it is written out for you. But in terms of what you write and how you write, that's in the course. The course will teach you how to write. This webinar, right, over the past hour and a half, have also taught you how to write, right? How do you write? So that's important as well. But you might want to ask a friend to actually do the writing for you, right? To do the writing for you, so that you can have someone to actually physically write it out, write the grant out for you. In terms of the language, get the language as you move through the course, because the course is going to be asking you questions about your organization and how you should write about the organization and how you best answer the questions. That's what literally the course is for, but you might need someone to help you in writing that language, okay? So great question, Murtada. Are credit unions also having grants? So credit unions is known for grants. They're more known for providing sponsorships, which typically you need if you have an event. So let's say you have an event and you want a sponsorship, you can go to a bank or a credit union, but credit unions are much better at providing you money. It's still free money, right? But it's in the form of a sponsorship. So for grants, I would go to the banks. I would go to the banks. All right, I want to make sure that I've answered every question into the Q&A. So there's help available, right? Come to the Facebook group if you have questions. Again, Letitia, I think it's best that you probably have someone help you write out the answers as you're going through the course, because at the end of the course, you have a great template for a grant application. But we don't help you write out the material. I think you would best have someone to be able to help you with that, to make sure that you are addressing the questions appropriately. But come into the Facebook group, it's phenomenal. All right, I've answered all of the questions in the Q&A. All right, one more. Do you need to be a certified Black-owned or woman-owned business? Excellent question, Heidi. No. So for most grants, you do not need to be a certified Black-owned organization or a certified woman-owned organization. Usually it's a WBE or a MBE, a minority business enterprise, or a woman business enterprise certification. Most of the grants I've seen, you absolutely do not. Now, it's still great to have them, especially if you are going for contracts or bids, or it's just great to have that certification, because many states, I know in the state of Ohio, if you are a certified Black-owned organization or a certified woman-owned organization, there are additional resources available for you, right? So it's great to be able to get that certification. But in terms of a requirement for most grants? No, but it's still great to have. Is the program on YouTube for review? Is each program on YouTube for review? So the course is not on YouTube for review. You're going to get this webinar, right? The replay will be on YouTube, right? I'm going to give you the link, right, to review the replay. Now, if you're asking if there's a way to review the course, there is. I have 2 free lessons, right? If you want to just look at the course and see what it is and see what's in it and look at the questions when you go to sign up, you can look at 2 different lessons in the course so that you see what's in there and how great the information is, right? All right, so those are the questions in the Q&A. I'm going to go to the chat because I did see quite a few questions in the chat. All right, so I am scrolling down. Yeah, so it's $247. It's one and done, literally. That's it. Oh, and it's tax deductible. It's literally tax deductible. The course is tax deductible. So you can write it off. There you go. You can literally write off the course because it's an educational resource. So yes, you literally, you can write it off. All right, let's see. Can you write and win grants? Yes, so for startups, absolutely. For-profit startups, yes. Android people. Android people, all right. All right, so let me just keep scrolling because I did see a couple of questions into the chat. Can you write a grant to pay for a grant writer and accessories? That's a great question. So no, well, it depends. It depends because I know someone who just wrote, they wrote in a grant writer as part of a larger amount that they asked for. So yes, it is possible. Yes, it is possible. But it needs to be more than just you paying money to get a grant writer. It needs to be, if you're going to write a grant, it really needs to be, it needs to include additional materials, right? Also, keep in mind that one of the reasons why you don't want, why you really can't, you shouldn't be paying a grant writer out of whatever grant funding that you get, because grants are not guaranteed. And the grant money that you get is not to be used on any expenses before you get the grant, right? That's why you should be paying a grant writer after you get, you shouldn't be paying a grant writer that got you the grant, right? Because you cannot spend grant funding on anything that you utilize before you got the award letter, right? Before you got the award letter. So that's why you should not be paying ever a grant writer a commission of what you get, because you may not get anything because grants are not guaranteed. But I do know a recent organization that was able to write a grant, and they included a grant writer into what they were asking for. They were asking for really money to build their infrastructure. And as a part of building their infrastructure was a nonprofit, they wanted to hire a grant writer to be able to get them more money. And they got the grant. All right. All right, so I see a couple of more questions. Let me just get to the next one, and then we are going to wrap it up. So thank you so much. Bonita says it was a very informative workshop. Love the workshop. Thank you so much. So what if you are a self-published author, sole proprietor, and don't have a board of directors? That's fine. So you don't, it's not required that you have a board of directors. It's not required. It's not required. All right. Okay, let's see. Let's see who else has questions. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. yes, move forward, whatever you do. Don't stay in the same place that you are. Don't stay in the same place that you are, please. VA spouse voucher cannot be second funding. I'm not sure what that is. I'm sorry. I'm just not sure what that is. Okay, I did answer the question about the certifications. Writing the grant for more than one funding source. I'm not sure what a VA voucher is. Are you saying that the VA gave you money? If the VA gave you additional funding to help with your organization, that's absolutely a funding source that you can list. Absolutely. Okay. Excellent. So once you join, right, you're going to get, so the Facebook group is called Grant Writing for Non-Writers, but I want to make sure you get into the right one. So when you join, you will get 3 emails. One will be a welcome email with your username and your password. And the second email will be a welcome email where you will, it will give you a link to click, and that link will take you to the Facebook group where we will get a message that you want to join and we will admit you, right? But the other email will ask you to create a username and a password. So the Progressive Insurance, just Google it. It's a progressive grant for Black entrepreneurs. Is due tomorrow. And they're giving away enough money for you to buy a car to use in the service of your company. And they're giving away several, it's not just 1 or 2, several $25,000 grants. And you have to be a Black entrepreneur. So just Google it. I don't have the link, just Google it and it will come up. Oh, thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Okay, I think I'm getting to the end. Have you ever provided SBIR, STTR grant writing services? No, I've written a lot of federal grants, but not an SBIR grant. Okay, all right, I think we are at the end. So you're going to get, you're going to get a link to the webinar. The webinar is not over yet, right? So it's not on YouTube yet, right? You're going to get the link to the replay at 11 o'clock tonight and tomorrow morning. So please put those 2 email addresses in your safe senders list so that it's not going to spam, or just look in your spam at 11 o'clock tonight, right? You'll also get another one tomorrow morning, and it will have a link to this webinar, right? And the webinar is on YouTube, so you will have a link. So just wait until you get the email, you will have a link. Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed the meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. I believe this is it. So let me just make sure that there's not any other questions that someone dropped into the Q&A. No, that's it. So people, whatever you do, please move yourself forward. I would love to be your coach, right? I would love to see you in the Facebook group. I would love for you to get some of this money that is out here. What I can't tell you is how long it's going to be. Now that I can't do. I can't tell you how much longer the George Floyd money is going to be available, or the COVID-19 money is going to be available. I know it's available now, right? So again, whatever you do, don't be in the same place a month from now asking, where is the grant funding? Or you heard that somebody got a grant and you're wondering, how did that organization get a grant? They utilized the knowledge that they had. And you have the knowledge now, and you can get a lot more throughout the course. And you can get me as a coach. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I want to see you successful. So I hope to see you in the Facebook group. You have 3 days to get that 50% off discount. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I know you could have been elsewhere today. I know it, so I appreciate it. My name is Linda Peavy. I am the founder of Lepov Consulting LLC and the creator of the course Grant Writing for Non-Writers, Keys to Winning Grant Proposals. And again, I appreciate you being with me. Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon in the course or the Facebook group, and have a blessed and a very, very, very safe night and weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.